My name's Aaron. Call me Az for short. I'm actually a business coach and a purpose coach, but I've done some soul searching over the last little while, and I'll go into a little bit more about why I started this channel a little bit later. But a little bit about me. I've had a couple of careers. So I was out of school. I was in the military, air defense officer in the military. I've done a couple of years of an auto electrical apprenticeship. I'm a qualified teacher, so I went to uni and got a teaching degree. I've spent the last sort of 20 years in and around the accounting industry, helping firms progress through their various stages of operations, technology advisory, those sorts of things. I've carried out roles such as general manager, CEO. Got an executive MBA from Melbourne Business School. So I've sort of had I guess, a varied sort of background and history, but yeah, it's sort. I'm one of these people that I like to try different things. I'm not sort of pigeonholed on a career path or a career track. I'm sort of on a life track. So I'm never one to sort of knock back opportunities and whatnot. So anyway, that's sort of led me to where I am today. A little about me. I have beautiful family. So I've been married for almost 17 years now. Have a 12-year-old daughter who's probably more keen to get on YouTube sometimes than I am. So I'm sure you'll see plenty more of her as the channel progresses. Um, and yeah, I mean, sort of started this channel doing a bit of reset through life. So the last sort of couple of months have been pretty challenging for me. I've dealt with mental health issues my whole life, and you know, if I could extricate myself away from my life and look back on it, I go, I've really got nothing to complain about at all. But there's just something broken up in here sometimes. So I've been pretty dark places, and over the last sort of couple of weeks and months, I've sort of just been trying to find a bit of purpose again. So, I've got a business that ticks over nicely, got great clients, and I know what I'm doing as well. So it's never been an issue with that. It's more, I guess, that broader purpose of why we do things. And so what I do in my coaching with people is I go through a concept called Ikigai. And just for your information, if this is too deep for you and you want to just get to the cool stuff, just skip through to the chapters. I'll put down some links where you can skip through the chapters. But those of you who want to know the full story, you gotta deal with this part as well. So Ikigai, which is a Japanese concept, reason for being, and sort of discovered and worked out that there's only really two happy places that I have in life. One of them's in the bush, out forward driving and camping, and I'm out there, you know, uh, at least twice a month. And the other time is out here in the shed. So particularly around COVID during the lockdowns and that, I sort of discovered that I was getting my grounding being out here and spending time out here, building this thing. Um, and so, yeah, it became really clear to me that that I was too far in balance in the bottom part of Ikigai, which is around what you can get paid for. And what you sacrifice there is what do you love, right? So, um, I guess this channel has been brought around because I need to balance back up into what do I love, and things like forward driving trips and doing builds and spending time in the shed. That are things that I love. So to throw a camera up and bring you guys along for the journey as well, it's really not that difficult to do. So yeah, that's the purpose of the channel, is to share in the times that I spend out here, tinkering away on cars and building cars and doing all the mechanical side of it all, and then all the panel beating side of it, and then going out and using it. As you can probably tell, this one's a little bit dirty at the moment. Took it out last weekend and still haven't had a chance to wash it yet. So um, yeah, we go do some pretty cool trips in that. So that's the purpose of the channel. So I guess what's my expectation of the channel? look, I don't expect to have millions of viewers. You know, it's there's a few great content producers out there at the moment that I subscribe to, and I'm sure they'll do a much better job than what I can do. But I mean, I I think the edutainment concept is something that a few people sort of throw around, but there's a lot to it. And I guess with my teaching background, um, and my ability to explain things to people, and also my ability to just pick up new things. And if I don't know how to do something, I'll jump on YouTube and work it out. Um, you know, I guess coming along for those journeys, and there's some pretty cool content. Like when historically when we go out on trips, I'm always the one with the camera anyway, and I'm always making up little shorts and everything like that. So there's some really cool cars that I go forward driving with, some good mates that I've got, good forward drives, and we do the harder tracks too. Like it's not like we're sort of just touring along, dirt roads in the high kind of like on the Dago High Plains Road or anything like that. Like we're doing some pretty gnarly tracks in some pretty cool cars and that as well. So I guess the expectation for the channel is to just, follow me along the journey and make sure you like and subscribe. The usual sort of jargon. Um, but the aim is to just build a community. And I guess the reason why the community part to me is so important is I lost my dad to motor neurons disease 4 years ago. Um, and he and I just we really talked about two things, and it was cars and camping. Um, so for me, um, he's had a big influence on my life and why I do what I do, as a passion. And to be able to build a community of like-minded enthusiasts that enjoy watching people build cars and learning new things and going on trips and doing some things they may not necessarily be able to do. Um, we can talk about it in the comments. We can talk about it on Insta, like all these sorts of things. I'm always open for a chat. I'm on a couple of Facebook groups with the cars and everything like that. And as soon as someone shoots me a message, bang, I'm shooting a message straight back. So I'm always actively engaged in communicating and answering questions and offering help and that. And so I guess that's the softer side of the channel. You're not going to be seeing me as extravagant as some of the other YouTubers out there. Um, and I mean, the reason why it took so long to actually start one, I've been thinking about doing this for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. The reason why it's taken me so long is confidence. Um, I've always been a fairly confident person. I'm a natural introvert. No. Um, no, I'm actually a natural extrovert, but um, yeah, it's overcoming that inner dialogue in the head to go, well, who's actually going to watch it? Who's going to listen to it? Um, who's going to get value out of it? All those sorts of things that they were all just crossing through my head. And the other part was also, you need to go and make money. Like you need to go and do a job, and um, this is all child's play sort of thing. But in the end, I'm talking back to that dialogue now, going, no, no, I'm doing this because it's what I love to do. I do this anyway, and now it's giving me a reason to show others and help others that they can do it too. So you can do builds in the shed. You can go and conquer some of these big tracks and everything like that. So um, yeah, the reason why it's taken me so long is to overcome and just talk back to that inner dialogue that's in my head to go, you can do it. Just have a crack. And if no one watches, well, no one watches. You're still doing it anyway. Who gives up? So um, that's where we got to. So Dad was a panel beater. He was very, very well known as an old school panel beater. So hated bog. Was brought up in the era of lead wiping and all the rest of it. So he used to always say, you judge a car by the ability to be able to move a magnet across all parts of the car. So Obviously, you still need the tiniest little bit of smear or bog, you know. But effectively, it was all about actually beating the panels and everything like that. So um, people sort of say to me, "Oh, that's obviously where you got all your skills from in terms of being able to do, the rust repair and that." And it's like that's not true. Dad split when I was young. We moved into state. Mum and I moved into state, and so I never really got to see Dad on school holidays and that. And the two things that we did whenever we spent time together was, be out in the shed, and go camping. You know, so it's no question of where my passions come from is from spending those times with Dad and that, and even up to when I was older, um, we'd speak maybe once every couple of weeks, and it'd only ever be about cars, supercars, or like the V8s, or camping, or forward driving, or things like that. So um, yeah, he passed 4 years ago from motor neurons disease. So I'll put a link below to the um, Fight MND cause. So make sure you donate some things there, because I mean how quickly he went downhill was pretty remarkable, actually. So from his first diagnosis, like from first thing we ever saw anything wrong, to the day he died, was sort of what, two and a bit years. So he was a very active person up to that point as well. But um, yeah, so he, up to his last project before he died, I mean, he's built so many EHs over the years. He was always a passionate Holden man and a passionate cruiser man. Um, and yeah, the amount of EHs that he built over the years. I remember one that he did was a EH Ute, with a VN, all VN running gear, so V6, Buick V6, and everything like that. And yeah, he he even he rolled an FJ40 once, so he had many FJ40s, and I'll put a few up, as we're talking about it now. He rolled one on the old Putty Road outside of Sydney once. Bought it back from the auctions, and rebuilt it and traded it in on a brand new 80 series at the time. So um, that was the level of work that he could do. Like, it was pretty remarkable what he could do. So anyway, he bought a rusted out EH panel van. He'd been looking for one for probably 20 years, to restore one, and he finally found one, and he started doing the work on it, and he was so excited about it. And I sort of said to him, in his last days, I said, I'll take it and I'll finish it for you. And of course he couldn't talk at the time, but he just gave me the thumbs up, which was his vindication. So um, brought it back down here to Melbourne, and if I'm honest, like, it absolutely shit myself. To I haven't done anything like that before. Yeah, I've worked mechanically on cars and understood mechanically about cars and whatnot, but the rust repairs are completely separate sort of topic. So I wanted to do it justice, and yeah. So I did the floor panels, or the floor pans, to start with, but even then I'm sort of like, but I'd always wanted to build one of these, an old 40, and I saw Richard from Design and Build. He'd sort of started one with a barra swap, and a chassis swap. And I always said, I remember reading Four Drive Action a long time ago, and it featured Billy McKinnon's Troopy, um, and I just loved it. I was like, oh, that is the go. Putting an old body like that on an 80 series chassis. But everyone sort of does them as LS swaps, like the Holden engine swaps and that. And I was like, no, I'm a Ford man. I want to keep a Ford swap. And then when I saw Richards come up, I'm like, yeah. And it was around about the same time that I was sort of like, well, I need to practice on something that's got a little bit less sentimental value. Um, and it so happened that when the first weekend that I saw the picture of Richard's car, and I think he just finished the initial hoop um, around the front of the engine and that. One came up for sale, an 80 series that Billy had you know done all the engine mounts and the body mount conversion for and everything like that had come up for sale. Um, so it was sort of pretty much destined. So I made inquiries and got that straight away. Um, Found a cab the very next day from a guy not far from here. So everything sort of just went into there, and then spent 2 years building that up, and so the skills that now that I've picked up and practiced on that, I'm now excited to go back to the EH to try and do Dad a bit of justice. So it's funny. I always say that Dad helped me. So I've got a bit of a shrine up there, and I've actually got some of his ashes. It's just an EH door. It's an old EH door. I've got a photo of him, and I've got some ashes behind his photo and that. And there'd be times there when I was doing this build where I'd have like a massive big rust section in the door, and I'd just go, where do I start here? And then all of a sudden my hands just start working. And then at the end of the day, I've done it, like I've completed it. And so I really attribute a lot of the build that I did with this, the build quality I did with this with him. So I'm sure his spirit's around here somewhere. And there's times that I'd work on the EH and I could feel him around and that. So um, yeah, I'm sure he's down here having a look around. And yeah, it's the work that I did on it and the connection that I have to Dad. It makes me want to do more, and so I'm excited about like I'm not quite 40 yet, but I've got many years ahead of the next build and the next build and the next build, and to have a community, going back again to the reason why I started the channel, to have a community of people that I can share that with, that can talk to me about it as if I'm talking to Dad, that makes it all worthwhile to me. So cars that I've owned. So I'm a bit like Dad in this instance. I've owned heaps of cars. Probably not as many as some, but I think for what the 20 odd years I had my license, I've had more cars than I've had years driving. So I've had everything from you know cool Falcons, XR6s, XR6 turbos. um, Mustang. I had a Mustang up until recently. Um, I've had some shit boxes as well. Um, yeah, just cheap, nasty things that you just drive into the ground. But I've always had a lot of four-wheel drives. My first car was a four-wheel drive, a Daihatsu Rocky. I remember Dad picked it up for me, for like 3.5 grand, and I spent the time, painting up the wheels and polishing it all and moving the pinstripes and everything like that. And I got what I think it was like a year or so later, I got 7.5 grand for it trading. So that's one thing I've up to this point. I've made money on every car I've owned because I've been able to, pretty them up, or look at something, the value of it, and go, oh, hang on, all that needs is a bit of a buff, or it just needs a bit of TLC sort of thing, and you can flip it all around pretty quickly and that. So yeah, I've always been able to have that ability to do that. COVID helped. The Mustang was an example. I bought it as an ex demo, 45 grand or where it was, um, and sold it 18 months later for 47. Like, yeah. So, which now they're probably worth even more than that now. But yeah, so I've had some pretty cool cars, and then all the four wheel drive. So. My first modified car was a Shorty Patrol. It was actually a Shorty Maverick. Um, had no clue what I was doing on that. I look back at it now and I just go, "What were you thinking? Seriously." Um, but yeah, I've had then gone through the family cars, so I've had a couple of GU4s, um, and now I'm into the Land Cruisers. So I'm very much father son there. And obviously we name all of our cars, so every single car I've owned, I've had a name for. And the three that I've got now here, three Land Cruisers, probably they're my three favourite Land Cruisers. Um, and so, in further episodes, we'll go through and I'll introduce those cars and what I've done particularly to those cars and everything like that. But yeah, I've had a few. So the first big trip that I did was I did the Simpson Desert when I was 13. Dad pulled me out of school for a month, and we did the Simpson Desert. So we did out to Uluru, or sorry, up through the Flinders Ranges, out to Uluru, Simpson Desert, and back home through Quarter Country, and that was really cool. I remember it took us 3 days to cross the desert, across the French line, and I had a little tally book, and I kept a tally of every single sand dune we crossed during that time. I think it was 1168 or something like that. 1168, I think was the final number. Um, been to Tassie 3 times, so I've done Climbys track 3 times. Done the waterfall crossing 3 times in both the 200 and the 80. Aiming to go back next year, probably twice. Taking this thing. So that'd be pretty cool to be able to do the waterfall crossing in 3 different cars. Yeah, so love Tassie. As I said, we're probably going back twice next year. Off to Fraser in September for my 40th. And I mean, where I live, I'm just north of Melbourne. And, Cobaw's at my doorstep. So the real tough tracks in Cobaw. Dis is on that side. Strathbogie's just north as well. And I've spent the last sort of 8 or 9 years knowing the high country like the back of my hand. So I've spent so many weekends in the high country. My favourite areas are probably around Bluff Hut, Lovick's Hut, that sort of area around there. There's just amazing scenery through there. Wanangata, I love dropping down into Wanangata. There's some camping through there. And around the Walhalla region, particularly McAllister Gorge, and Burgoyne's Track and those ones like that. So, certainly get out and use these things. They're not shed ornaments by any stretch. Yeah, so that's probably enough about me. I'm sure you'll get to know me a little bit more through the series and everything like that. But yeah, let's do the cool bit now. Let's go for a bit of a walk around the shed and see what I get to work. Cars. So this is Tammy, and we'll do a rig rundown on Tammy at some point. Timmy, which is the family jigger, and then this is the current project. So panel van, which was Dad's. So at the moment I've got it mounted up on a rotisserie, and I just got back from camping last weekend, so there's a bit of cleaning up to do this today. But yeah, up on the rotisserie so that I can get to the underneath here. And as you can see, I've started to take this back to bare metal. And then as I mentioned before about the floor pans. So I've done these floor pans, but I did it before I put it on the rotisserie. So I'll be able to actually go over these properly again and get them coming up nicely. So actually, I probably need some help with some of these cross members here. Obviously, I don't really want to leave it looking like that. I mean, this is not probably going to be a show car, but I just don't like how that is there. So I might even have to untack all this and take that off. So if you've got any thoughts or comments, leave them in the comments below, and sort of think about what's the easiest way to do that. I think might even have to remake the whole thing, but anyway, I'll come to that. So yeah, this is where we're up to, and then once I get all this cleaned up, we'll whack a coat of epoxy on it, so it's all protected and match the rest of the car. So Dad got it, epoxied, the rest of it epoxied, but didn't get obviously underneath, so it wasn't a full sandblast job. But the good thing is he'd done the roof before he died, so the roof's in really good condition, and he'd also done the scuttle tray as well. So
yeah, I'm pretty lucky with that. So it's really just and there's not really much rust in it. Like once we sort of move it around and everything like that, it's actually not too much rust in it. So yeah, it's pretty good. And then we've got Sandy. So we'll do a rig rundown on Sandy as well. So this is the one that I've just finished building. Still a bit filthy from the Cobaw trip, which will come up in a couple of weeks. Yeah, so that's Sandy, and then yeah, finishing off on the van. So our caravan we have. So there's Dad up there. So keeping a watchful eye over everything. So yeah, that's the long and the short of the shed. I was fortunate enough to be able to put a hoist in, so this is why I say I've got the best wife in the world. So when we first moved in, the shed only came to sort of here, so it was only 4 bays wide. And then what we did is I originally wanted the van in here, so makes it a nice sort of easy back up the driveway. So the van initially came in here, and then I always wanted to put a hoist in. The hoist was always big on the cards, but I worked out that the concrete in this wasn't much chop. As you can see, it was probably done after the shed was built. So you know, you've got all this, and it's not level and it's not flat and everything like that. So I didn't want to put, you know, a 4-ton car up on a hoist that had, you know, foundations I wasn't sure on. Whereas the slab we got for this, I knew was good, you know, good quality and everything like that. So, and it also gave me the extra height as well. So, yeah, it fits in nicely and everything like that. But what it meant is we needed a new home for the van. So just put another extension on, you know. So, you know, that's sort of where we got to. Made it a little bit bigger so that, you know, when we decide to upgrade the van one day, you know, we've actually got that little bit extra room, and it's got a 3 meter height door and everything like that. So, yeah, it gave me the ability to have a hoist, and it has been the best thing ever. I honestly couldn't have done this car probably as quickly or as easily without the hoist. So, yeah, if you've got the ability to put a hoist in, you know, I totally recommend it. So. But not everyone can, I get that, but yeah, it was just makes life, especially even just moving the body on and off, you know. The tray itself, so the tray is like, you know, full steel, so there's a lot of weight in that tray, so to be able to move that on and off with a hoist was just blessing. So anyway, that's where I'll probably end it for this video. Hopefully that's a bit of an intro onto me. Coming up next in the series, I'll do a rig rundown on Sandy, and then the next episode after that is her first trip out to Cobaw. So some pretty gnarly footage in that. Not so much of Sandy, but of the other cool cars we've got in there. So stay tuned. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, any comments, put them down below. See you next time. Cheers. G'day. That was fun. How fucking hard is it to say, hi, my name is Aaron? Like, seriously, what the hell? Can I just say how hard it is to talk to a camera rather than talking to a person? If there was a person here, I can tell my story easily, but being a camera, it's so much more difficult, so bear with me. Yeah, so Dad's influence